Great evening, everyone. Welcome to the I Am Transformed show, where we interview real people with real life transformations. If your own fears and insecurities are hindering you from pursuing your dreams, the wait is over. When you can change your mindset, you can change your life. So let's go after that life you desire and deserve. I am your host, Veronica Outlaw, and I am here to help you proclaim I am transformed. Do me a favor and let's hit that share button so we can share this blessing with as many as we can. Today we have with us Toni C. Hughes. She's the author of Living Your Extreme Destiny, and she's here to discuss childhood upbringing with a dysfunctional relationship with her mother and how she overcame. Toni is a native of Nashville, Tennessee. She's an author, actor, and coach. While pursuing her love for acting and women empowerment, her goal is to be of service to all mankind while inspiring, impacting, and changing lives through her life coaching program. She's going to share how she found her purpose, pursued her passions, and share how you can do the same. You can follow Toni at www.toni.hughes.com, and we'll share more about that later. Miss Toni, how are you, my dear?
Hello. I am well, feeling great.
Awesome. Well, Toni, we're gonna dive right into it because I've been following you on social media, and I hear glimpses here and there. I'm not consistent with social media, so I'm glad to have you with us today. I'm so glad and honored that you accepted the invite and to share your story because I know it's going to bless and help so many people.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Okay, so let's start off with the easy questions. Who is Toni Hughes?
Who is Toni Hughes? I love that question. Well, like you said in the intro, I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, by way of Charleston. I've been here since 2004. So Charleston has become my home. I'm actually in Somerville, sunny Somerville, I should say. So I'm loving it here. And I'm an actor. I started acting when I was in undergrad at Tennessee State University doing theater and transitioned to film when I moved here in Charleston. And I've pretty much been doing film ever since, but I still dabble a little bit in theater as well. So that kind of makes me a creative, I should say. And I'm also a writer and an author. I've just published my first book, like you said, Living Your Extreme Destiny. I'm excited about that. And it's been a journey, but my background, the reason why I moved to Charleston is because I had a job offer working for the Department of Defense as a computer scientist. So that's pretty much a little bit about who I am. I have two children, Malik and Malaya, that I love so dearly, even though they drive me crazy sometimes. But they are my babies. Yes, definitely. But they keep me pretty busy. So for the most part, that's the gist of who I am.
Okay. Well, let's dive right into it. So today we're going to discuss your life experiences that essentially led to the birth of your new book, Live Your Extreme Destiny. So let's start with your childhood experiences. As you mentioned to me, how you dealt with a dysfunctional relationship, some hardships and some struggles with your mother.
Yeah, exactly. And let me first distinguish when I say mother. And when I talk about my mother, I'm talking about my biological mother, the mother who birthed me into the world, because I also have a bonus mom, in which I mentioned in the book as well. And, that's the difference between the two. So I just wanted to make that clarification. I am talking about my biological mother. So when I was a kid, I started off living with my mother, and pretty much my mother she lived in the projects in Nashville on government assistance. And it was me, my younger sister, my younger brother, and I had an older brother. And I also have two other older brothers who live with my father. So while growing up with my mom, I experienced a lot of hardship, as well as my siblings, and a lot of dysfunction. And when I say dysfunction and hardship, I'm talking about something that's not normal, out of the norm of what you would normally expect in a healthy home or healthy home environment. So my mom was addicted to drugs. for the majority of her life that I can remember. And so with that within itself was very challenging. And then she was also multiple abusive relationships with the men that she encountered with. And she also lived a life of prostitution to feed that need of getting the drugs to please her needs. So growing up, I pretty much had to raise my little brother and raise my little sister. I became the mom ultimately at a very young age. And it was very challenging. It was very difficult. I would have to make sure that they were up and ready for school, make sure that I had myself together, and then walk into school just full of shame and embarrassment, knowing what my mom was doing during the time she wouldn't come home. We were there alone, trying to feed ourselves when there was food there, which wasn't very often. We had sporadic moments of time the refrigerator was full, and then moments when there wasn't anything there. So we did what we could do. So during the times I would walk to school, very ashamed because for the most part, I stayed to myself. I was very quiet as a young child, which today nobody would ever think that because I'm very outspoken now. But growing up in that type of environment, it makes you isolate yourself because you see your friends happy and talking about their mom or their dad doing different things and being involved in their life when my mom wasn't there. And that's pretty much the dysfunction and the hardship that I experienced growing up. And I always say, I remember a time when I couldn't get in the house. We couldn't get in the house coming home from school. So we would climb on the railing on the porch and climb in the window to get in. So that was one experience. And then just growing up in the projects and in that environment, already dealing with the drug addicted mom, abused mom, being neglected in that area. There were times at night when we would hear helicopters flying around trying to find somebody who's committed a crime or done something they had no business doing. So a lot of times I would come home from school with homework and just trying to stay focused, trying to keep a level head, trying to get comprehension and understanding of the work when it was already difficult being in school with all these things on my mind, thinking about the needles that I saw when I would walk down the hall and see the door cracked up with my mom, having sex with someone. And during the times I would walk in the room when she wasn't in there and would see needles laying around and, different other apparel for drug use, things like that. And, all I wanted to do was just learn who she was because we didn't have an intimate relationship. We didn't have a connection. We didn't have a bond as a mother and daughter. So I felt a void in my heart and in my life. And I had always wondered what it would feel like to have a mom just to have a conversation with me. So that was something that I didn't experience at a young age. And so I took what I could and I guess just learned the hard way on, different things that you need to learn as a young child, especially as a teenager going through adolescence and going through different things, puberty, learning different things on my own was very, very challenging. So that within itself was a hardship that I can say that I experienced as well as my siblings.
Mm-hmm. So has that relationship with your mom been repaired?
Well, today, my biological mom is deceased.
Okay.
She passed back in 2008. And before she left this earth, we did, repair the relationship to the degree of what we could based on the mental state that she was in. And one of the things that I need to mention as well is that my mom, before she passed, had contracted HIV, AIDS.
Okay.
And so that's not what took her out, but that she did contract that, due to the drug use, the multiple partners and different things like that. So but we repaired the relationship. I made it my business to make sure that she had what she needed before she left this earth. And me and my siblings got together and took care of her the best that we could.
Okay. So would you say you were in a place where you forgave her?
Definitely. And to expound on that, forgiveness is not an easy thing to do when you grow up in the type of environment that I grew up in. A lot of people don't know that about Nashville. West Nashville was the side of town that we lived on. Is forgiveness is something that you really have to work hard at. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that happens overnight. And I look at my relationship with my mom, my biological mom, compared to what my younger brother had with our mom, was two different things. Like, we see things totally different. And but one thing we did was we made sure we forgave her. And I think that's very important. That's very key. The reason we forgave her is because we needed to, and she needed us to, for us to help her before she departed this earth. And I know forgiveness is a big topic for you. Just listening in on one of your sessions when you were mentioning forgiveness, I will say to those people out there in the world that maybe experienced or have experienced any type of dysfunction or hardship, to consider forgiveness. And not just for the person that you need to forgive, but for yourself.
Right.
And that involves and will help with healing for both parties. And the way we forgave our mom is, what we had in our life was God, and knowing that the things that she dealt with wasn't her. It was the battle that she was dealing with. It was the disease that she was dealing with. And we don't know what she went through with, her upbringing. So that was something that we never had the opportunity to discuss with her, because she was 45 when she passed.
Okay.
So she was very young.
I commend you for saying that, because a lot of times when people go through different types of trauma, they always say, what about me, without even considering that the other individual may be going through something that's way out of their control. Sometimes it's not intentional, but when you do have people who are addicted to different substances, or whatever the case may be, whether there's an illness mentally or whatever, we have to consider that these people are not functioning from a healthy place. And so when you say, well, I can't forgive her because she did XYZ to me, in my view, first of all, you stop and pray for that individual and assess the situation outside of me.
Right,
Consider,
exactly.
Not taking away from the horrible things that happened to you, or how it made you feel, or how it made you function as an adolescent or even as an adult, whether that spilled over into other relationships or not taken away from that, because the damage is done. But when you do have empathy for looking outside of yourself and saying, what, this person wasn't well, they may or may not have meant to do this to me, and try to offer their forgiveness. But exactly like you said, there's a process to it. There's no black and white blueprint. Your journey is going to be your journey. So I commend you for saying that was key to mention.
Definitely. I appreciate that. And another thing to consider with forgiveness is knowing that, it's the situation that needs to be forgiven. Yes, you can forgive your parent or whoever the other person is that's caused you hurt or pain, but the situation is what needs to be addressed. Right. And I do a lot of talking about that, and intend to do in future coaching sessions as well.
Okay. So talk about how you overcame all of that, because now one of the questions I have is, how did all of that spill over into your adult relationships?
Well, I'll first start by answering how did I overcome? Well, the way I overcame was during the time I was living with my biological mom. She got to a point where she wasn't able to take care of us anymore. So we ended up having to live with my dad. And I was probably around about 12 at this point, moving in with him. And that was when my dad, it was a totally different environment. And the environment that I experienced with my mom was like night and day compared to what I experienced with my dad. He basically told us, if you're going to live with me, then you're going to have to go to church regularly. That's for Sunday school, Sunday service, Sunday night service, Wednesday Bible study, Friday service. We got drilled.
Right.
And we were actively involved in everything, especially me. I don't know what it was about me, but my dad made sure, and I guess because I was the oldest between my younger brother and younger sister, he wanted to make sure that I could lead. That's all I can really think of. But bless his soul, he's no longer living either. But that's pretty much what was the turning point for me. And just learning about God, learning to connect, reading my Bible daily, having that solid foundation, having that connection with God and that relationship, that one-on-one, which grew in me and still is in me today, really helped me with not just the relationship that I had with my mom, but in all of my relationships. Nobody is perfect.
Right.
My mom wasn't perfect. My dad wasn't perfect, but he lived a life and set an example as a God-fearing man, a minister, because he was also a minister. We had our own church. We had a family-based church in Nashville, and I did everything you could do in church, and he made sure that he kept me actively involved. And that is where my foundation lies. And that is what helped me in forgiveness in that area and help with healing and overcoming and just having him as a guide. And then there was also my grandmother. And she was a very, very strong person in my life as a role model who taught me a lot about womanhood and a lot about faith and a lot about belief and happiness. And those two people were my biggest supporters in life. And so I'm eternally grateful to them for everything that they've done for me. And that was pretty much what helped me overcome, using God as the stepping stool and letting him just take the lead in my life. And I would get on my knees and pray when I would experience different things in school, when I wouldn't open up, when I was by myself. And then has that affected some of my relationships? Yes, it has. And I was married to my children's father for 19 years. So we're no longer married. But I will say that a lot of the things that I experienced, I took it into my marriage. And I will say that those experiences as a child, I believe that I've learned a lot from those experiences growing up. And now that I'm an adult, those experiences definitely did pour over into my adulthood. But I think that one of the things that helped me was not only having God and having the spiritual foundation that my father gave us when we moved in with him, but also just having a coach, having mentors. And then I also had therapy.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into all the therapy that I had, but a sister girl had a lot of therapy.
Okay. And I was just about to ask that because a lot of people go through different traumas and they don't get the help that they need. They go off and they get married, like you said, married 19, 20, 25, 30 years and never got the treatment for trauma that happened 30 years ago, and not realizing that it's a byproduct of how they're acting or behaving or thinking that spills over into other relationships. So would you say that your therapy helped you, or is there still work to do?
I will say this because I got asked that question by one of my coaches also. Did therapy
Okay.
help me and would I recommend therapy? And my answer was yes, I
Okay.
would recommend therapy. But I was actually in therapy for something else.
Okay.
And it had nothing to do with my mom. Now, in some sessions, I did mention her, and I openly, express this because I believe that therapy is beneficial for what it's used for.
Okay.
And but I also recommend a coach, as the two are different. And the reason why I say I recommend a coach because it wasn't until I started using a coach that I realized my purpose. I realized what God had called me to do. I realized where a lot of my pain had stemmed from that I didn't get when I was in therapy.
Hmm.
So, and I was in several therapy sessions with several different therapists. So
Okay.
sometimes, depending on what you're trying to get and why you're in therapy, would determine whether or not it's beneficial for you. What I went for therapy for was beneficial for me. But the coaching that I had experienced with the coach, she had 30 plus years of experience coaching. And she really helped me out a lot. And I think that was a definite way for me to push through and to get to where I am today.
Okay. Before we go into your purpose, I want to address happiness because I've had that question come to me over the past week or so. People declaring that they're not happy and they're thinking that they can find happiness in another human being. So address happiness. What does happiness mean to you? How do you get it? And so forth.
That's a really good question. And I love that question. And happiness, a lot of people think that happiness comes from relationships.
Right.
They think it comes from substance. Some people even think it comes from sex,
Mhm.
some other outer source. Well, with me, I believe that happiness comes from within.
I agree.
It starts with you. No other person can make you happy. Yeah, they might make you smile, they may crack a joke, make you feel really good. But I think if we start with ourselves, look in the mirror, start doing the things that we love, finding the things that makes us happy and doing that, that's what's going to bring that happiness. That's what's
Right.
going to bring that cheerful, that joy, the things that make you feel good about yourself. Those are the things, not anything negative, not anything that's going to cause some type of neglect or abuse or toxic ways or anything like that, but things
Right.
that bring you happiness on the inside starts with you.
I agree. I agree because if you put stock into someone else making you happy or someone else or something to validate your happiness, when they drop the ball, then you're not going to be happy.
Exactly.
So the only person you put all of your eggs into is God. He's never going to fail you. Now, us as human beings, that may not be our intent to fail an individual, but it can happen. We're humans. And so if you put your validation in someone else making you happy, you're gonna be miserable.
Exactly. That is so very important. And a lot of people get that mixed up. I remember just listening to Will Smith speaking about Jada one time, and he was talking about how, you have to make yourself happy. Jada can't make him happy. And, she might do things to make him smile, but it's his responsibility to make himself happy. And
Right.
I agree with that. So definitely
Yeah.
it starts with you.
Right. So that leads me into my next question, and talking about purpose, because I think each person has their own identity. Whether we know what that is or not, that's a different topic, but we all have our own identity, and our identity, what we like, don't like, what we want to do, don't like to do, is totally separate from another individual. But the key is to tap into those things that you enjoy. I had to go through that after my daughter finished high school. I poured so much time and energy into raising her as a single parent, and caring for everybody else, that when she left home, I had a meltdown because there was nobody else there to take care of. And so I'm 40. I think I was about 46 at the time. So I wasn't in my 20s or 30s. I'm 46, standing in the middle of the living room and had a meltdown. And so I had to do the work in my late 40s to date myself, to find out what I liked and didn't like. Found out that I love to travel. I mean, just so many things. So all of that to say, we have to do our individual work, because for all intents and purposes, even if you were with somebody who just made you happy and smile all the time, they can pass away.
Yeah.
They could up and leave for whatever reason. And when that happens, where do you stand with your own self? And so I agree that happiness does come from within. So that leads me into asking you, what was that pivot point in your life that led you to discover your purpose in life? And how did you discover it? And what is that purpose?
Well, the turning and pivoting point for me was when I realized I had a birthday, and that was what really started it. It was a birthday. And I was just asking myself, I was like, who am I? Why am I here? Mm-hmm. What purpose am I serving? What am I supposed to be doing? I was completely lost. And I wanted to know desperately, like I was just so determined to wanted to know, why was I here? What purpose am I serving? And at that birthday, I realized, I didn't know who I was. Mm-hmm. And here I am. I got 2 children, just went through a divorce, just had a birthday, and I felt completely lost. And I was like, this can't be, I don't know when my time is coming, but I want to know what I'm supposed to be doing so I can start doing it. Right. I want to get on my job, on my assignment, whatever it is, what I'm supposed to do. So what I did was what I always done when I had questions or wanted to know certain things was I prayed. And when I prayed, I asked God, why did you create me? Because that's what purpose is, our reason for being here, why we are created. And that's what I wanted to know. And I asked him. And at first I didn't hear anything. And when that happens to me, I fast. That was my next step. Okay. I said, okay, I haven't heard anything. So I did that. And with that, I said, you know what? Normally when I haven't heard anything at this point, then I know that connection that I have with God, I need to strengthen it. So I started to read my Bible. So those were the 3 steps that I recommend doing. And that's what works for me. And that's what worked for me. And then at that point, I was also in coaching sessions. And this was a discussion that came up, a topic that came up in one of my sessions. And I was challenged by my coach to determine what that was. So not only did I take those 3 steps myself, but I went on the outside of that and hired a coach and worked through all of those questions. And we came up with what I'm going to say, it was a breakthrough moment for me. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I finally could breathe, because I was holding all this in, all of this strong will and wanting to know all of these answers to these questions. And when I realized what the answer was and God confirmed it, then I knew. And what that was, as a coach myself, and what I do as a coach told me exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And that is helping and serving others. And I've done it all my life. And I was like, well, wait a minute, I've always helped people and I've always loved to help others. And that has been something that I learned from my father and from my grandmother. And my dad, I would witness him helping people, strangers. And I would witness my grandmother taking complete homeless people into her home, preparing meals, providing food, clothes, whatever they would need. I would witness all of that from both of them. And that spilled into my life. And even with my bonus mom, I watched her provide meals in, her ministry and the things that she was doing. So I had all these positive examples, and that's what brought me to where I am today as a life coach, giving back to the community, helping others, serving others, and being of service. I hope I answered all your questions.
You did, because one of the questions that I get most is when you say you heard from God that he confirmed XYZ. What did that confirmation look like to you?
Well, I'm the type of person, I'm a risk taker.
Okay.
And there are not a lot of people that are like me. I'm not bragging and being boastful, but I consider myself as being in the top 1%. The reason why I say that, because I think outside the box and I try to be as open-minded as possible. So I had more than one coach, and I've always had a relationship with God since that day I moved in with my dad. And that confirmation and the way that came from me, each of my coaches said the same thing. They didn't know each other.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And it was crazy. And sometimes I find myself like, who do I credit? Which coach do I credit for me finding my purpose? So I'm like, well, you know what? It was confirmation through each of the coaches telling me, Toni, you will make a good coach. Or I hear coach, or me having that breakthrough moment with one of my coaches that made me realize, you know what, I can do this. I can be a coach. I'm always encouraging somebody. That's one word that I hear people saying about me a lot, is that Toni's a great encourager. And I say thank you for that to those that feel that about me. But, I really say thank you to God, because he's the reason. He's my purpose for wanting to serve. His Matthew 6:33, just seeking him and knowing what he wants and what he has for my life, that everything else is going to flow, whether it's relationships, whether it's business ships, whether it's finances, health, whatever it is. I know that if I have him in my corner and have him as the foundation, this quote that I came up with is, when you have faith as your foundation, you can't fail.
That's right.
So I strongly believe that through those coaches and those confirming words and hearing it from 3 different coaches made me feel like, man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So what is the essence of your life coaching program?
Well, what I do primarily is I coach women who have had a dysfunctional or toxic relationship with their mother.
Okay.
And I also coach on purpose, finding your purpose and living out your passion. And I'm really big on goals. I have several certifications under my belt, because you got to have those credentials. And with that, I say that I also have the experience, and I do tell my clients that I do talk about God in my sessions, but if some of my clients don't want to, then that's their choice. I don't put anything on anyone. It's not my job to make anybody a believer or make anybody believe what I believe.
Right.
But I do, because that's what helped me. I make mention, hey, this is what I talk about beforehand. And that's pretty much my target area in my coaching.
Good. Okay. So someone comes to you and they want to hire you to be their life coach. Kind of briefly walk us through what that discovery process looks like to help someone find their purpose and passion in life.
Definitely. So before we even get started, and I actually just created this, I have a workbook that each of my clients will get. And in that workbook, It's a workbook that helps me understand my clients' needs and help my clients understand what they're going to get out of the session, and also so I can understand what they expect to get out of the session.
Okay.
Within the workbook, it has in there, it's an intake form where there's some general information that I get from them, age, name, things like that. And then there's also a discovery session. And with my first consultation, which is a free consultation, I get them to basically break down on this discovery session what their needs are, what they want, and then we go into goals. And from there, we work on purpose, passion, if that's what they desire out of the session, because each client is different. Everybody wants something different. And that's pretty much what we follow through and follow from. And then if they want to continue, then we're going to the actual sessions where we break down in each session what their target area is based on that discovery session.
Okay. Okay. How long are your typical sessions?
Well, for me, the consultation is 30 minutes and the actual session itself, they're also 30 minutes. They span from, depending on what package that the client gets, from 6 to 8 sessions. And if they need longer, then we can extend it out longer as well.
Okay. And so do you have more than half of those people who, when they leave your 6 to 8 sessions, they have a solid foundation of what their purpose and passions are?
Definitely. And that's why I make sure that I get feedback from each client in each session. And that's very important. And so with the feedback that I've gotten from my clients, my previous clients that I've had, I've seen some transformation.
Awesome.
And I think that with that and with the follow-up, because I do keep in contact with my clients, I make sure that if there are any additional things that they desire, if they want any, more coaching, or are there any other areas, then I can recommend other coaches as well, depending on what they specify that their needs are. Because sometimes they shift. They may want to work on purpose or passion, and then someone may have experienced a divorce and may want a divorce recovery coach. So then they'll get recommended for that, another coach in that area. Or maybe there's a business that they want to start and they want coaching on how to start a business. Then I recommend a business coach, relationship, different things.
Right.
But I think with the feedback that I've gotten so far, I feel pretty confident in the sessions.
Okay.
And that keeps me happy. And as long as the client is getting what their needs are, then I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. How long have you been coaching?
I actually just started coaching last year.
Okay.
So be coming up on a year in August. And it feels like it's been longer than that, but
yeah.
I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to what's in store for the future. Definitely looking forward to more clients and just serving.
Okay. So let's go into Living Your Extreme Destiny, your new book just released. Talk about the essence of the book and how did you get there? What was the process for you to be ready to put this in print out to the public?
Wow, man. I tell you, this book, God was in it the whole way through. It was a process, I tell you. And the reason why I say that, because the title is not the original title.
Okay.
And I started October 2014.
Oh, wow.
I started writing this book. And, it started with me wanting to know the answers to all those questions. Who am I? Why was I created? And when all those questions formed, I said, somebody else might want to know this information too. I don't want to be selfless. Let's get self out the way. How can I help somebody else? Here I am again, trying to figure out how to help somebody. So I said, it would be good to have this. And then I also wanted to leave a legacy for my children. Mm-hmm. And I said that, let me come up with a title for what I'm trying to do myself. And the initial title was Living Your Passion.
Okay.
And and it was all about passion. And then for some reason, my computer crashed. I lost about 3 or 4 chapters.
Oh.
And thankfully, I had about a couple of chapters handwritten, which we normally don't see people doing that these days. But I actually had a few notes written down. So I took my handwritten notes, prayed, and said, God, please tell me what you want me to do. I know you wanted me to do this, and I know there was a reason behind me wanting to start. And I took that, and with that, I said, let me keep pushing, because I know this message has to get out to people, because I'm not the only one that's curious about these things.
Right.
So I started retyping. I restructured the entire book, changed the title, and then I said, let me save some information. So I spoke with one of my mentors, and we came up with another way for me to save my work. So if something were to happen again, another crash, I could be prepared. And with that, I went to constructive creative writing groups, and we talked about the things in my book. So I shared some information, got some critiques, made some changes. And with the book, Living Your Extreme Destiny, that title itself is me. I say it's me all over. And the people that know me will say, you know, Toni, she's a risk taker and she does things on an extreme level. And that's where the word extreme came from. And then the living part was just something that I had took from the original title. And destiny was basically, this book is destined for me and for others who are interested in finding their purpose, living out their passion, because it's actually a guide. And the subtitle is a guide for defining, understanding, and living your passion.
Okay.
So that's the depth of how the book got started, and and the process. I tell you. So here we are today, and living your extreme destiny is here.
Wow. So tell us where we can find the book.
Okay, so you can find the book on Amazon, Amazon.com. You can also find the book on Barnes & Noble. And then my publisher, you can go to westbowpress.com. And then also my website, www.tonychughes.com.
Okay, I got that in the chat. Okay. So outside of the book, are there any last words you want to give us on, you know, forgiveness, finding your passion and your purpose, dealing with past trauma? Anything we've talked about today, do you want to expound or anything, leave any advice or tips for the audience?
Okay, forgiveness. Let's talk about that first. And I will say to anyone listening that's been through anything, and that's a lot of people, the first thing to do is acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge whatever it is that needs to be forgiven. Don't ignore it. It's a part of what's going to help you heal.
Right.
So that's the first part of forgiveness I would like to mention. And then keeping in mind that it's going to help you as well as the other person, if that's the area that needs to be forgiven, involved. So know that it's going to help you. It's going to help you overcome. It's going to help you get through that obstacle, help you overcome that hump, get to where you're supposed to be in life. Because it's going to hold you back if you just keep on holding on to whatever that pain is, that hurt is. So you have to learn to forgive yourself if you've done something that you had no business doing.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Maybe we've done some things. Maybe we've sinned. And a lot of times we are our own worst critic. We're hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Look deep inside your heart and know that you are valuable and you're not perfect. You're human.
Right.
So forgiveness is the first step when it comes to different things we've been faced with in life that has been hard. So I definitely want to encourage any and everyone listening to take that first step.
Mm-hmm.
As far as trauma, what was that second one you mentioned? Purpose and passion. You should want to know your purpose. And the reason why you want to know your purpose, when you think about the world that we live in today for what it is, there's a lot of suicide. There's a lot of crime.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hurting people, sickness. And these are some things that I mentioned in the book. So when you think about people that are living in their passion, that know what their purpose is in life, they don't have time to be thinking about robbing somebody,
Right.
killing somebody. They're happy on the inside because they're living what they were created to do. They're doing
Amen.
what they love.
Exactly.
So that's the advice I would give in that area. And anybody that's facing any trauma in your life, I know that there's a lot going on with COVID. A lot of people are losing loved ones left and right. There's a lot going on outside of COVID, job loss,
Mm-hmm.
sickness.
Mm-hmm.
I would say acknowledge the trauma. The same thing that you need to do with forgiveness. Acknowledge that there's trauma there. And know that there is a higher being higher than yourself. Let him have it.
Exactly.
Let him take that wheel. Let him stir it. Stay still and know that you are loved and that you are not alone.
Mm-hmm.
The battle is not yours. Don't try to fight it alone. Get you a support system.
That's right.
Get those people that love you to love on you. And if you don't have a support system, pray and ask God to send you some. It could be a complete stranger.
Yep. Yep.
It could be virtual mentors, virtual guidance, whatever it is, whatever you need to do. Do a Google search on support systems. They're out there.
Right.
It doesn't have to be anybody in your family. It doesn't have to be loved ones, because sometimes our loved ones are the ones that cause the trauma.
Right. Right.
So I say seek it. Google is it's available for everybody that has a computer. And if you don't have a computer, go to the library.
Right.
So I would encourage each and everyone watching, each and everyone listening to know that you are loved, know that you are valuable. Whatever it is that you're seeking in life, find your purpose, know what you're passionate about, live and operate in it.
Mm-hmm. I would add to, while you're seeking that support, which is highly needed, because we've got people in COVID who are being abused. They don't have anywhere to go. They want to escape. They don't know how. They don't have the means or the resources. I mean, it's so many variables out there. But while you're seeking that support, one of the things that I'm a huge advocate on is giving back. Don't just be the taker, take. Give back. That does something for your soul as well. It is very therapeutic, healing to give back. So don't,
Definitely.
you need the help, and we want you to get the help, but in doing so, turn around and pay it forward.
Pay it
You'll
forward.
be
Help someone else.
amazed at what that could do for you in serving.
Definitely.
And just simply serving.
Exactly. I totally agree. I had an experience this morning. I woke up and I was like, I was feeling good. And then all of a sudden something came over me and I was like, wait a minute, where did this little energy come from? And I don't know if it was exhaustion or what it was. So I drove to the local Walmart and there was a homeless man, and I said, let me just bless him. I felt so much relief, so much better. So that is so true. And if it's just having a extra food, a plate to give to someone that you have left over,
Right.
It could be a number of things. It could be, having a conversation or letting someone just vent to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It doesn't have to be monetary. I remember one time I was I can't remember if it was McDonald's drive-through. All I ordered was a cup of coffee. The person in front of me didn't know that. But when I got to the window, the cashier told me that the car in front of me paid for my meal. They didn't know how much it was, but I guess the person asked. She told them how much it was, and that person paid for my cup of coffee. And so I then turned around and gave the cashier money for the person behind me. So just imagine that domino effect if everybody just paid for the person behind them. It was an awesome feeling. You know, you don't go around and boast and brag about it. That's not the purpose of it. But, you know, just sharing that to give an example, for example.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that, you know, in the Bible, it talks about not sharing that information. And of course, you want to obey what the Bible says and also be an example. And sometimes that does say that, not to negate away what the word says, but if we can be an example and show that what we have done to help someone that could have changed their lives, then that'll help encourage someone else to do the same. Like you said, pay it forward.
Right. Yeah, we're not on here boasting. And, you know, it would be different if I got on Facebook and said, hey, I gave this, you know, money to this homeless or whatever. Yeah, don't do that.
Exactly.
Don't do that. But yeah, but to share an example of what that looks like. And like you said, it could just be you sat down one day and you called somebody that you haven't called in a long time. If God presses somebody on your heart, then apparently they, you know, reach out and call them. I need to do a better job of that. A lot of times people fall on my mind. I don't know why. But if I take a moment to call, you never know what comes out of that conversation that could bless them in that moment. So just taking the time to give a call or shoot a text and say, I love you, or, you know, whatever the case may be, doing something that you normally don't do is that thing you're supposed to do in the moment. So if it's helping the homeless, if it's, you know, paying for the person behind you, if it's serving at a shelter, whatever that is, do something. But, you know, going back to the original thought, don't be the person who just takes and takes, because that's an abusive relationship when it's one-sided.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I'm big on the win-win scenario, and that's even in relationships, business ships, you know, throughout your life and people you encounter. It has to be a win-win. I will recommend a win-win situation that whether, you know, each party can feel accomplished, can feel that they're not been taken advantage of or abused.
Exactly.
So, you know, we would say. So yeah, I definitely say that's the way to go.
Exactly. Well, we don't have any questions. So do you have any last words? Tell people how to get in contact with you. And then if you have any last words, go for it.
Okay, definitely. Well, all of my social medias, Facebook is Toni C Hughes. I also have a fan page, Toni C Hughes Official. And then you can reach me on Instagram at Toni C Hughes. Twitter is Hughes Toni C. And when I say Toni, it's Toni with an I, and Hughes is spelled Hughes. And the C, of course, C is in Cadillac. So I just want to thank you, Dr. Veronica, for this opportunity. I think this is a great thing and a great platform for everything that you do in your field. And I think that a lot of people will be blessed by this, not just our conversation, but all the other conversations that you've had. So I'm very grateful to you and to the audience that's listening and watching as well.
Well, Toni, I thank you for accepting the invite. Look forward to following your journey. If there's ever anything you need from me, just, you know, we're glued to the hip now. So
all right now.
I look forward to any collaborations that we can have in the future, because we both have that heart for women empowerment. And so, you know, if there's room for us to collaborate on anything in the future, you know, just you have my contacts, just reach out to me.
Definitely. And I will say this to anyone that's interested. I know we didn't really touch on the acting aspect and what I do as a creative, but I will be having a one-woman show towards the end of the year or early next year, depending on the venue that we're trying to get right now. I will say that in order to stay up to date on any other events, and even with the book, with different events that's going on with the book, people can go to my website at www.tonichughes.com to stay updated on the different events that we have going on. And I'm looking forward to, just everything that God has in store for us. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about now.
Yeah, amen. That's right. Well, again, thank you, Toni, and thank you everyone for tuning in to the I Am Transformed show, where we interview real people with real life transformations. The goal is to educate, inspire, and empower you to your next level, because we have kingdom work to do. So until next time, continue to declare and decree, I am transformed. God bless you all.